Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maxima and welcome to the Flashpoint 2021 April status update. I apologize for the lack of status updates in the past few months because we have been having a little bit of trouble. The first couple of months after the release of Flashpoint 9 were needed for a bit of a restructuring, for a bit of just work behind the scenes, and as a result we kind of fell behind on work. And I'm not going to go too in depth as to why that is, but know that we have actually been working. We haven't just been sitting on our asses and letting Flashpoint 9 do the work for us. We've had a fair bit of stuff added into this version, which we are now comfortable with showing you. So we're going to take the opportunity to walk you through some of the new features and updates that we have available to us, which are going to be coming as part of Flashpoint 10. And as you can see in the top right, there ain't a code name yet. Stop looking. So, let's go over to the Games tab and have a quick look at what we've got available here to us. 80,276 games. This is approximately 10,000 more than were included in Flashpoint 9. There are also a fair few new animations, although I don't have an exact count of that available to me right now. It's probably in a few hundred, maybe 1,000 or 2,000. I'm not sure. But nevertheless, we have been working. There are new games here, and it isn't just like crap, like say dress-up games, for example. Just the thousands of them that we're getting in. There's a fair few of them, but it's not everything. We are getting more new actual games in here as well. So it's coming along. We've got a bunch of new games going in, and it's actually been coming in a fair bit faster because I'm going to give you a little bit of a look behind the scenes here. So if we open up Discord, you can see our staff channels down here. And Batch Checkers is a relatively new channel. So the way this would work normally is that I would download approximately 150 to 200 games at a time, roughly, it depends. And I would check those 150 to 200 games over the course of a day. And then I would import them all into Flashpoint. I'd check to see if they would have, say, just errors in the metadata, missing files, they didn't work properly, all of those sorts of things. I'd do that for every game and then they'd go in. Over and over and over again. So up to around the 75,000 game mark, that was about where we were at. But we realized that due to the fact that we were about 2 to 3 months behind at the time, we were like, oh shit, we need to do something quick in order to make sure I can actually catch up without getting myself killed. So we've actually been handing off batches of curations for staff members to take a look at, and they've all been taking a look at them. They've been going through, checking for errors, and then sending them to me. They've been telling me which ones need to be deleted, and then everything else can just be imported. And we've been going a hell of a lot faster since then. Normally, the batch that you saw up here, all of these batches up to the end of December of 2020, this would take me like 2 weeks minimum. But this was about 5 days ago. I posted this 5 days ago, and we've only got like 10 batches left to check, so it's going a hell of a lot faster than it used to. And I haven't even been checking any batches recently, just because I've been trying to get everything else in line. So this has actually been working out pretty well for us. That's the reason why we're at 10,000 games right now. And it's also a reason that I personally am hoping that we'll be able to catch up to, at the very least, the end of January, before we need to release the next version of Flashpoint. I'll get into details about what we plan to do about that at the end of this video. But right now, we've still got some more features to go and check out. So if we look over on the right here, we can see things have changed a little bit. We're not actually clicked on a game that's visible here, but whatever. You can see that we've got a new arrow here and a new line here. Installed, 657 kilobytes. One of the major revisions that we needed to make in those first 2 months was an update to the zip system. So the zip system was a thing in Flashpoint 9, and it is being carried over to Flashpoint 10, where games are zipped up so that they can be just one file that's easy to read. Sometimes it'll just be a one-file game, but if we come back up, say, the top here and have a look at this, we can see that there are sometimes games that have way more than one file in them. It's very useful, and we've actually been compressing older games. It's gotten to the point where we have less files in Flashpoint 10 than there were in Flashpoint 9. We've cut something like 300,000 files out of the Flashpoint file count just because we've been zipping games. It's been working out pretty damn well for us so far. So hopefully it'll be a little bit easier on your hard drives this time around. But we've also added the ability to uninstall and install games. So for example, if you're running Infinity and you decide to download a game that's a game zip, it'll be downloaded from the internet in the game zip and then run from the game zip. This is good news. It'll hopefully make downloads a lot better. It'll hopefully make some more troublesome HTML5 games that require a bunch of resources to load a fair bit easier. Hopefully, it just makes things a fair bit smoother. And the fact that you'll be able to choose to uninstall some games will work out great. Unfortunately, this doesn't work for everything. If a game hasn't made it into a zip, it'll just show up as a legacy game, and you won't be able to do much with it. But for now, a lot of the more problematic games are going to be showing up in game zips, and that will make things a little bit better for us in the future. Speaking of better, at least, god damn it, we have tags. You might notice that there is a new fancy color here for strategy, because we have enhanced the way that tags work in Flashpoint 10. Let's just ignore all of the adult tags right now. But as you can see, we've got different kinds of tags and we've got different kinds of colors for them. So we can sort by things like genre, things by like just how they are in general, like what they were made in, things like the franchise that they are a part of, and we can just sort by any of these if we so desire. We've been making a real hard jab at the tags, and hopefully by Flashpoint 10 there will be a lot more of a general, general better tag system than in Flashpoint 9. But it also comes with a new system to make use of them. And this is something that a fair few people were complaining about for a reasonable reason. So, we have here tag filter groups. So these tag filter groups can take lists of tags and then filter them out. So for example, let's say I particularly hate the Gorillas and I don't want to see anything to do with their games. So I add Gorillas as a tag to this tag filter group, and this tag filter is now enabled. So if I go to games and search for Gorillas, this isn't complete yet. We do have 1 or 2 Gorillas games here that are not filtered yet, but we're working on that. As I said, we're going through some massive updates to our database. But yes, you can see that we've got very little in the way of Gorillas games, but if I go and turn the filter off and come back to the search, there they are. So we can filter out games by their individual tags. And the way that this helps out by default is that we can enable a tag filter for, say, just pornographic tags and then disable it for just violence tags. So if we want to say, for example, have dark cut only available to say gore, we can add the gore tag here and then not filter out gore. So if people only want to see the gorier side of Flash, they can do that. If they only want to see the pornographic side of Flash, they can do that. Or if they particularly hate the Gorillas, they can get rid of the Gorillas. It is also worth noting that the extreme checkbox is now a tag, but we are going to be removing this tag and replacing it with more appropriate tags as we go through. So we'll be getting rid of this and replacing the tag with gore, for example. And we'll be doing this with all of the extreme games so that you can filter out the more questionable sides of Flashpoint content to your preference. And maybe we'll be able to extend this later on to be like, oh, we can only have educational games. Let's make a hard filter for educational games that's going to be a lot harder to find for, say, educational places. We don't know. We could do that. We're not planning to do that just yet, but a lot of people have been asking for an educational-friendly version of Flashpoint. Gonna come too late, probably, but we'll try and make it work. We'll see if we can make it work. You know, it might be good for kids anyway. So, yeah, that's the thing. That's tag filter groups. Very useful. Very cool. So, let's head on back to the Home tab. And if you've been paying attention, you might have seen a few new different kinds of platforms here because we've been adding a bunch of new plugins. And funny thing, all the plugins that we've added are like 6 meg. They're not big at all. Like even Flash. Flash is, one standalone projector for Flash is like 12 meg. Just to give you an idea of how small some of these are. So we're just going to run at random. I think Atmosphere is the one that most people will be impressed by. Let's play the Meat Space Plaza. Whatever the bloody hell the Meat Space Plaza is. This is just a three-dimensional world that you can navigate using your mouse. There are a lot of plugins like this. There are admittedly very few of these entries depending on the platform you have, but considering that this project is basically meant to save interactive web experiences, that's a penis. And considering this is meant to save interactive web experiences, well, there you go. We do have a bunch of new plugins with a bunch of new curations behind them, and there'll be more curations as we go through the curation and catch up with the ones that have been left behind over the past couple of months. So that's good. That's pretty much all of the major new stuff, but let's go over something a little bit more minor that I think some people might appreciate. So we've always had an absolute ton of playlists down the side here, right? And I thought to myself, there's got to be a better way to do this. There's got to be a better way to have a more all-encompassing playlist that is more available, more diverse, more varied, more everything you can imagine. That just means have more games in it that are more interesting. Say hello to the Super Hall of Fame. This is us combining all of the mini playlists that we used to have down here, plus the Hall of Fame, plus a bunch of others together. And now we have a playlist of 500 unique Flash games that represent the best of the best, whether it be absolute classics in the form of tanks, games that are just really well put together, like Super Mario Bros. Crossover, games that are a little bit more niche, but are still an absolute ton of fun, or just absolutely ridiculous anyway. You name like a notable Flash game in some way, it's probably here. The idea is to basically be like, hey, you want a good guaranteed game to play, but you also want a bunch of choices. You can go through and pick one out. So as a result, hopefully this will just be like a one-stop shop for people to be like, oh, that's why Flash is cool. That's why it was a cool idea. And we also went to the effort of putting a few different platforms in down the bottom. We call them the big five. We got Java, we got Shockwave, we got Unity Web Player, we got HTML5, and of course we've got Flash. Of course, there's probably more games that could fit in this playlist from these platforms or even these platforms, but we just wanted absolute classics because we really were building up to 500 games at this point. Like, as you can see, there's 516 games in this playlist. So, yeah, it's ridiculously big. And you know what the best thing is? If you're paying attention to that post, there's a copy of the Super Hall of Fame waiting for you. All of these games are in Flashpoint 9, so I'm going to be exporting this as a playlist and including it alongside this post. So you can go and download the Super Hall of Fame, import it into your own copy of Flashpoint, assuming there isn't any incompatibilities between this version and the previous versions, and try it out for yourself. So that's pretty much everything we've been up to so far. There's not really that much else to talk about, if I'm being honest with you. It's mainly just been work, work, work. New plugins, new games, and everything else is more or less behind the scenes. And hopefully, considering that we're about to hit 20,000 members on the Discord, this will keep you all updated on what we've been up to. As for when we're releasing Flashpoint version 10, good question. We're hoping for the end of April. We're hoping that we'll be able to get all the kinks ironed out and hopefully a bunch more games into the collection so that we're at least partially caught up by the time that we decide to put it out. With that said, please don't hold your breath on that. There's always the possibility we might get held up by something else. This has been Blue Maxima. I'll see you all next time.